Welcome back, guys, and I wanted to continue talking about culture because I believe that it's the reason that our office is growing. We are on the up, and very important to learn to develop that. So not too long ago, we talked about what are some things like optional meetings that I can create and place around my environment in order to enhance the culture and make it better, which really helps the leader work less in the front line and take more of a back end role, not for not wanting to be in the front line or wanting to be in the back, but because of it is more efficient really, and it allows a leader to be less pressured on the front so they can focus on growing the business in the back. This applies to anybody from having a team of 3 or 4 people up to people that have hundreds and hundreds. So one thing that I realized that we do, and it works probably less than I would like it to, but having things on the walls. So I'll cover and show you this, which is leadership traits to develop. And like I said, I wish it worked better than it currently does, but I think that when you put things on the walls, like, I don't know why it took me 4 years to put like pictures of how people should dress for whatever the client they're representing, or the office dress code in the field and what professional dress code means. Inside of the office. Versus having to repeat the same conversation over and over every single week with a new person. You can use like cork boards and stuff on the walls to help enforce. And I think this is another level of that, because if somebody kind of falls behind any of these traits, you can always point to the wall and say like, hey, we've told you this, plus it's on the wall of where you work at, and it's like everywhere. It's not just on one of the walls. So we have 26 of these, and we like to bring them up and talk about them. And so I'll kind of go through them, and if we don't get through all of them, then maybe we'll touch base again. But we always talk about personal sales, and this is a conversation leaders like to avoid. And in order to help the leader really avoid it, not that they should, we want to make sure it's a trait that you develop, that you take care of your own personal sales by proactively reaching out, by when you are struggling, that you're consistently figuring out your way, like showing up 10 minutes earlier, staying up 30 minutes late to fix your personal sales. Atmosphere, it's number 2. And on atmosphere, we really talk about the room and the environment we're in inside of the office, being inside of atmosphere, treating it like a training room, not leaving to the bathroom because you're in the middle of training. A professional sports team, you wouldn't tell the coach like, hey, can I go to the bathroom in the middle of training? You'd never do that. You would respect the atmosphere. You would respect and look forward to training. You would look forward to all these things. So we talk about being in atmosphere as if it was being in the training room. Number 3, money. And we talk about, hey, what is your personal relationship with money? What is your standards with money? We don't need you to have money for any reason. We like to know that you have money and that you're saving money, because it reflects a lot of personal habits that you do outside of work. Therefore, we know you're a more accountable person, you're a more responsible person, so we know that you're probably going to be a better leader that's going to grow faster because your relationship with money is healthy and is not, a person that crazily uses credit cards and stuff like that. Closing your back doors, meaning how quickly can somebody commit? We are not looking for people to commit to this and sign their name with blood on the wall, that they're going to be the next best, sliced bread. But we do want to help people as a trait. Hey, if you want anything to work, you can't just try it out. You have to close your back doors. You have to try this at your hardest level for at least 16 weeks, for at least 20 weeks. And that's, I believe, a trait because it reflects also discipline, not just commitment. So that's number 4. Number 5 is recruiting. Learning how to conduct the interview and take the applicant through the first 90 days. So sometimes people believe that recruiting is a 3-interview, a 2-interview process, an onboarding process, a badging process. It is not. Recruiting, it is a 90-day process involving their first 90 days of work plus their interview process. And that's what we teach. So developing that trait definitely requires lots of time, very important. Number 6, teaching and training. Really the art of duplicating, probably the most talked about or leveraged skill in the sales world, is learning how to take your job, pass it to somebody else without losing efficiency, and be able to maximize leverage, because now there's 2 people, there's 3 people, there's 4 people. Number 7, as a trait, not so much of a trait, but maybe a character trait. instead of a leadership trait, being trustworthy, right? So we want to work with people that we can quickly trust, that we can quickly have no reasons to not, and it's a lot easier to work with people and to grow when you can confide in them something, when you can trust them with another individual or with the development of another leader. So number 8 would be being a servant leader. And I think being a servant leader matters because just like it was explained in the Bible and all the way from that to every other leadership book ever written, servant leadership, meaning caring more for somebody's interests versus your own, normally goes a long way. And it's kind of funny. You help other people accomplish their goals. I'm sure you've heard that. And then by default, you get to hit your own goals. So that's why we believe having a servant mindset, or a person that helps the other one first before you help yourself, is very good. Not to confuse with, I'm not going to help myself at all and I'm just going to help others, because then you're an empty cup pouring into another cup and that doesn't work. But having the mindset and the attitude of helping others first. Similar to number 9, being a team player. So somebody that's a team player is somebody that looks at the office goals. They look at the company goals and they put those ahead of their own. So your goal might be to get into a level of leadership or into a system, or your goal might be whatever, but you're thinking in your head, how can I hit the office goal? Because that'll help pull me into my goal. So that's what being a team player means, putting the team ahead of you. Do a whatever it takes mentality. Number 10. We look for people that have that mindset, and we look for people that they're not asking so much, but maybe not at the beginning, but people when they get developed as a leader, leadership traits, they stop asking questions like, what do I have to do? And they ask questions like, hey, what does it take? Because for somebody that wants to hit goals, it's almost irrelevant what they have to do. And what matters is, what are some of the things, what is it that needs to get done so that the goal can happen, right? So having that mindset goes along with number 11, do more than is asked. It's just a great, it loops into being trustworthy, being a servant. They're all looped. But if I tell you to do X and then you do 2X, then you automatically look better. If I tell you to go a mile and you go 2, you automatically look better. Why? Because it was unnecessary, and that's really what purchases trust and what allows you to create trust and create like a credibility. So doing more that's asked is something that every leader does. That's typically why they're leaders. Number 12, being a visionary. So when the team is a little stuck, a little stagnant, when there's a lack of activity, there's a lack of maybe energy, we're looking for somebody that knows how to recognize that. They know how to maybe read the room. And you're a person that's reading the room and you're like, you know what? I'm going to stop everything that's going on. I might skip the schedule today, take everybody out to lunch, or do something different. And talk about where we're going, where it is that the office is headed to, where it is that we're going to be in 3 months. And I remember doing this when I had nobody working in the office, and I was telling people, hey, I don't care if it'll be you or not, but there's going to be 100 people inside of this office, whether you're a part of it or not. And that means that so many of the people that are in this room are going to have to move up, because I'm going to make sure there's 100 people in here. And the ability to say that when you're very far from 100 people, or you're very far from such vision, really clarifies this trait as a leader. So number 12 is being a visionary. 13 is coaching your people with high standards. So we want people to stay in the business and we want people to grow, but we don't want them to do that if they're not going to do what they promised us they would do effort-wise. So a lot of times a new leader will coach a team so they can stay longer. Instead, we want you to coach your team with high standards, with a standard of excellence. I don't care if somebody did so good. Hey, did we do the maximum of our potential? If the answer is yes, then way to go. But if they could have done better than their potential, even if the results are high, we want people to coach high standards. At the same time, this is why it's difficult to be a leader. Number 14 is being empathetic. So learning to relate and learning to listen to somebody's personal problems, as BS as they could be. Learning how to empathize. And if you do not have a story to empathize, you can have them empathize with somebody else and have them connect with somebody that has been through that. 15 is intensity. We look for people that are looking for ways to make the day faster, speedier, communicate quicker, feedback loops are quicker, We want the intensity. We want, one thing I love about our business is when we're doing so well, you go inside of the practicing room and it looks like there's absolutely no practice. It's complete game time. And that is determined by the intensity and the speed of the leader in every aspect. So that's number 15. 16 is being uplifting, similar to empathetic, but also adding a touch of encouragement and empowerment and, speaking life into the individual, that every person, especially when they come into a sales role or really any new role, there always going to be some sort of level of self-doubt, self-esteem issues. There's going to be a self-image thing that kind of sometimes holds people back. It's the job of the leader to kind of help that person move up and say, hey, you can do this, speaking life into them, being uplifting. Number 17 is looking for the best in others. And I think this is a very opposite trait than a lot of managers have. It's very easy to walk into a room and point out what the problem is. Extremely easy to do that. You can walk into a room, it's very easy. Like, a lot of people can get sick. A lot of people get cancer, but it's the person that comes with the cure for cancer. That person's going to make a lot of money, right? So we want you to look for the good news. Look for the good in others, especially when somebody makes a mistake. Instead of going and pointing out the mistake, we look for the leader that has the trait to realize, but they did do this well. What is the good things that we can point out? So that's looking for the best in others. Having a spirit of excellence is number 18. So we want people to have not a spirit of perfection, which is impossible. There's no perfect people. A spirit of excellence. Somebody that looks at, again, is the effort level bar maxed out? If the answer is no, then we could have done better. That's a spirit of excellence, regardless of the results. Emotional stability. Of course, everybody has their own personal life and everybody has had challenges. I've never met anybody that's had a perfect life and nothing's wrong in their life. Today, we just had somebody that missed work because his wife had complications with pregnancy. And you know what I mean? Of course, there's sometimes that people have to take the day off. But we want people that can be emotionally stable, people that can get ahead of their personal drama, people that realize that the bills don't get forgiven if you are having problems in life. And understanding that takes a level of maturity, so we look for that emotional stability. Number 20 is being the best example in everything. Being the best example is not to be confused with being the best in results. More than likely, you're not going to be the best in results forever, because the number one, quarterback, Patty Mahomes, was not the number one quarterback 5 years ago, and the one 5 years ago was not the number one quarterback 25 years ago. The number one always changes. So you don't have to be the best forever, but you do have to strive to be the best example, which again goes back to effort. Number 21 is being focused. We want a person, we actually don't have to learn many skills in this specific business. We have to learn how to sell, we have to learn how to recruit, we have to learn how to train, and we have to learn how to have conversations. Those are probably the only 4 skills that somebody needs. And so focusing on those 4 skills, focusing on the day, on what part of, which skill am I focused on, extremely important. It's very easy to get to get distracted and, follow the trends. Very important. Having a coachable spirit, number 22. A coachable spirit is that of which somebody seeks for advice after they've done something very well, even if they knowingly do that. Or so, for example, if I crush whatever thing I'm doing and I do very well, but I'm actually not because I want to pretend that I'm a great, I have a coachable spirit. It's just a trait of mine that I always like, hey, do you have any feedback? What do you think I could have done better? Is there anything that you can please point out? And genuinely having a humble spirit to seek that out. I think the difference between having a coachable spirit and being coachable versus a person that likes coaching is actually seeking the coaching. So I think that's extremely important. Number 23 is pride and ego. I've never seen somebody put their ego and their pride ahead of all of their goals and succeed. Typically, pride and ego is very, very tough to overcome for a leader, because when people have pride and ego, it kind of acts as a blindfold. And so you just can't see anything. And all you see is your ego. I know this because I've been there, and to where all I see is me and I am the center of all the universes combined. And it's extremely hard to get out of that mindset. So it takes sometimes it takes a lot of pain. That's what happened to me. It doesn't have to be for everybody, but it takes normally going through lots of pain in order to overcome ego and being able to work through that. And the same with pride. So people that put their ego down in order to learn, have a coachable spirit. Definitely leadership traits to develop that we look for. Number 24, personal growth. Somebody that seeks personal growth almost as entertainment. Somebody that is able to put their education, maybe reading 10 minutes a day, listening to a podcast in between all the songs, is somebody that can prioritize their personal growth. It doesn't take more than 5, 10, 20 minutes a day, but a big thing that develops over time in a very big habit. Number 25 is gratitude, and it goes again almost as a trait. Like, I went from being almost like mad for almost anything that happened to me to like develop this trait of gratitude to where I'm almost like grateful every morning that I get, to put my feet on the ground and have some oxygen in my lungs. And why? Is because I've developed this trait of, very few things you can actually control in life, but you can control your state. And it's impossible to be grateful and upset at the same time. So you want to develop an attitude of being grateful. Some people do gratitude journals. Some people just do like words of affirmation. No matter what it is that you do, if you're not sure how to be grateful, or if you're like, I'm really grateful, then you're probably not grateful enough, or you're not at all. And a good way to do that is by zooming out. So whatever focus you think you have, zoom out. Imagine you're on your phone and you can like zoom out and see everything to where if you zoom out long enough, Alex Hormozy talks about that. If you zoom out enough, like the world is like this like tiny little dot in the universe that doesn't really matter. So that helps a lot with gratitude. And number 6 is being a good wingman or wingwoman to whoever is the person that is your growing upline. So it doesn't have to be your direct upline, but maybe the person that is helping you grow or accomplish that, wherever that person is in your upline, partnering up with that person and learning how to be a wingman. It's a lot easier to be a number 1 than it is to be a number 2. And I remember me putting myself in this role to where I was number 2 to my upline, Raphael, for the longest time. And it helped me a lot because he took all the pressure as the number 1. If you ever see like the Tour de France or any of the bike tours, like you see how the number 1 and number 2, and they're always like separated from the pack, and you see how they trade positions. They trade the number 1 and the number 2 spot as they advance through the mountains, because the person number 1 is going to exert a lot more energy because they're going against the wind, and number 2 gets to like go in the buffer and right behind, and then they switch back and forth almost to where they decide who ends up number 1. And that's, again, a leadership trait to develop, because if you can learn to be a great number 2, you're probably developed a great coachable spirit. You put away your pride and ego. And these are all traits that are not immediate, but that we look for. So hopefully you can take some of these traits and put them back into your culture, or hopefully you look at some of these traits and you look at, I can work on some of these. I can develop these. This would make you a very complete leader if you can not be perfect, because you won't, but have a progressive mindset to being better at these 26 things. So hopefully it worked, and see you at the next one.